7:30, we'll call the meeting of the Board of Adjustments for June 11th, 2018 to order. Secretary, please record the roll of directors present or absent. Before you, you have the minutes of our previous meeting of May 14th. Are there any corrections or additions? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented to us.
Thank you. Motion by Pat. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Corey? There is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried without dissent. Our regular meeting today has to do with a request to build 2,400 square foot accessory structure where 1,200 square foot is allowed at 114th Avenue Southwest. Who's here to speak to that? Are you here? You want to come up and give your name and tell us exactly what you want to do?
Yes, I'm Joe Casson.
Oh.
This is my way.
Is it on? I don't think it's on. I can hear you.
Good morning. I'm Joe Casson. This is my wife Stormy, and we're putting in for extra variance for to build a larger garage. To, I guess, to put all of our belongings in.
Okay. You, I see you have the road in there already where you want to put it. Is that?
That was in there when we bought the property back in 2002. So I think the former person that owned it was planning on doing something like that, but I don't know if it never got around to it or what.
Is that 2 lots?
It initially was 2 lots. Yes.
Okay.
And what the city asked that they combine the lots in order to move forward with this process.
Okay. And that has been done.
We believe so, but we're not 100% because we didn't know about going to it. So we did talk to a few people in the court office to do that. So they were going to combine 9 and 10 and make it lot 9. And I think I talked to the Queen City Abstract as well. So as far as it being done at 100%, we can't answer that unless it's,
Okay.
but we did attempt. So we think it's either in the process or either done.
Will be done. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, questions from the board?
Any response from the neighbors?
There hasn't been any inquiries.
Okay. Obviously, no one's here to speak for or against it.
We did talk to the 2 directly next to us to make sure it was okay, or at least the one for sure I did, and the other one seemed fine with it too.
Is that Bob and Elaine Dvorak right next to you?
Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
great neighbors.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any further questions? Is there a motion for a decision?
I've got one other question.
Go ahead.
Any concerns about the structure itself, the height, height?
Based on the setbacks from the property lines, the type of building that they want to build fits the city of Dickinson requirements. Obviously, I believe the siding would match the existing structure. I think we've had that conversation. This would be permitted through the county. However, just like it comes in front of the Board of Adjustment, it has to meet the city of Dickinson requirement. So what would happen next is that they would submit an application for a building permit with the county with these minutes. Just like structures in the past, I asked that if this is approved, that this is the total amount of accessory structure allowed on the property, permitted or not.
That's our main concern, is the size of the structure.
Yes, and like,
Square footage of the structure.
like the property owner stated, this was essentially a separate lot, and you can build 1,200 square foot for each lot up to an acre. They will combine them if it's not combined in order to facilitate the structure.
Any other comments or questions? If not, is there a decision?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve the variance finding the requirements in section 39-1201, 11, and approve the variance for this.
Okay, motion by Pat to approve. Is there anything else to go with that motion? And can there be other structures on that lot, or should that be in the motion?
That should be in the motion, which I previously stated.
Okay. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bruce. Further discussion? Hearing none. Pat?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Trevor?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Anything else in other business?
We had a conversation at the last, or toward the tail end of the last meeting, Trevor wasn't here, with these accessory structures. I'm looking for a recommendation from this board to take in front of the planning and zoning. Should we increase the square footage of accessory structures based on, I'm looking for a recommendation for a formula. I can give my recommendations, but I'd rather it come from a board such as yourself to bring in front of the planning and zoning.
Trevor, we were talking about lot size, some acre lot. If you only put a 1,200, should it go half acre, 1,200? 1 acre, you can go 2,400, or, some kind of stepping. Because these keep coming up, and it's a huge lot, and the area calls for, it's not gonna affect the area by having a larger.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And if you look at the homes around this one, they all have kind of those nice accessory detached structures that are pretty good size.
What's to stop them from splitting that lot in 10 years, splitting that lot and selling out,
Well, if they met the square footage of the lot, they could do that if somebody actually acquired a building permit. Our code doesn't allow an accessory structure without the primary structure. So that would be a violation of the code. And if they actually went below, this was zoned, what was it zoned? We had
R1. right?
R1.
One.
So, I mean, that's essentially, if you look at it, 7,500 square foot lot. So they could have, reduced it down to that. But in this area, wouldn't foresee that happening, but, so if they actually followed the code and maintained all the setbacks, it could happen. And that's where I don't know if you look at a formula, our code says up to the first acre. You could have 1,200 square foot on a 7,500 square foot lot, so long you didn't go over, for R1, I believe it's 40% of lot coverage. So there is percentages in place to protect the coverage of the lot.
Is there some reason why we need to have it from the 7,500 square foot up to an acre? Like, why do we limit it at that point? Like, I'm just curious because, like in this one we just had example, like if they have all this stuff all over the yard, wouldn't you want it in a building instead of all over the yard everywhere?
Again, the code was set, it changed a number of times since I've worked for the city. I think it was 2,400 down to 1,600. we used to actually subtract the attached garage from the overall when it was 2,400.
Yeah.
But still, people came in front of the Board of Adjustment and asked for variances for larger structures.
Well, what, I guess my question is, like, if it's based off of, like, if it says a 7,500 square foot lot, you can do this.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a 15,000 square foot lot, why can't you just have double?
That-
Like, up to it, like, why doesn't it just follow all the way?
Well, that's what I'm asking you, for recommendations, but, I mean, I didn't put the, it's in there for a reason, probably try to keep people from always asking for more, but it's, whatever the formula is now, it just doesn't work, so I'm asking, for the, up to, say, 7,500, you can do 1,200, so long you don't go over the lot percentage. So at an acre, do we double it? I mean, do we, essentially, for every 7,500, I mean, we could actually send that into the planning and zoning and ask for, I mean, they would have recommendations also, but to give them something to work with, based on the decisions that this board has made over the past, even 5 years. I don't know if any have been denied when they've had,
No, because most of them that come in have been like this on in the extraterritorial,
yes,
where it is a fit. What was the last one, 5 acres?
yes,
And he was still way over, but a 5 acre lot, and you throw a 40 by 60 on there, or whatever he wanted. It has very minimal impact on the lot.
I guess the only thing I've ever heard when I started on the board or whatever, the only reason I ever heard is they didn't want people conducting business out of the buildings.
that was,
Which-
that's a very good point. You don't want somebody running a commercial shop or,
In an R1,
you know, oil field business out of a lot, you know, within the city of Dickinson. I mean, the code doesn't allow it, I mean, those types of business, but then you have to be made aware of it. And it's generally a complaint, and, I mean, we have it in our code that wouldn't allow it, but it would be a process to stop somebody from doing it. It has happened, just north of town, where we've had some hot oil service companies running a business right out of their lot. Whether it was a couple
Is there
acre lot,
R1?
they didn't have the big structure, but they used their lot, which, again, we send notices to stop that business.
Sure.
I mean, there's things in place.
Yeah, I get-
It's a process.
I guess I've yet to hear a great answer of why we even stop it versus just the percentage. You know, if you have a 7,500 square foot lot, you get this. If you purchase 15,000 square feet, you get that much greater of accessory structure. Like, why do we stop it from 7,500 all the way up to an acre and say you're
I
only
think
allowed
we
that?
stop it because of the types of structures. When you get to that size, what it's gonna look like. Essentially, it's aesthetics. If you put up a big steel structure in this neighborhood that doesn't match the house, I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks like a big Quonset. I think that's a part of the reason why you would stop that.
Sure, but you could have it in there, it has to match the house.
Yes, yes.
You know, I mean, then it would eliminate, what's the difference between that versus some of these other big houses that have huge garages that look exactly like the house?
Right.
I mean, I don't get a lot of complaints about that.
But again,
You know.
I mean, if that would be a recommendation, that's what I would take to the
I think
planning
we've had this
commission.
discussion before, though, and I think it was always decided that each individual case is different, and a lot of, sometimes they're all, you know, they're all different, and they should be taken individually. And that's, I think that was the decision of this board before, in years past.
Mhm. But again, we can keep it the way it is also. I mean, that's,
And that's fine with me. Either way you feel, or either way the board feels, it's fine, I don't care. But we should have a determination, do we treat each one as an individual thought, process, or do we have a set amount of the square footage and be able to build the
So how
side?
many- Question, how
Well-
many square feet are in a 1 acre? How many square feet?
43,560.
I didn't know you-
This last, one was like 1.3, I believe, 1.38 acres, something like that.
I guess I'm fine either way. I mean, a lot of times it is an individual situation. You know, where there may be like one of the last few lots in a neighborhood like that that didn't have a big accessory structure and everybody else has it. I'm fine using a percentage, and even if we cap it at some number, I mean, within the city limits, I don't think you need a 7,000 square foot accessory structure. You know, I mean, we could cap it even if they have a huge lot. But I mean, 1,200 doesn't seem to be doing it as far as every time we come in here, if people have over a couple things that they want to put in there. And it seems to me that the accessory structure adds to the value of their house, adds to the value of the neighbors' houses, keeps the vehicles off the yard out of the way. I mean, it's almost 9 out of 10 things about it are beneficial.
I kind of think we need to at least bump it at a 1 acre lot. You know, like, for example, this one, if that becomes 1.7, is that what you said?
It's 1.3, something like that, I believe.
You know, if they have a 1 acre lot, we should, you know, like you said, 1,200 square feet.
Is minor
It's
coverage.
pretty minor.
Do you want to make that decision now?
Actually, if you have a recommendation, I mean, I would take that recommendation to the planning and zoning. You're looking at acre plus, whether you go to 1,600 or 2,400. The formula now is after the first acre, for every half acre thereafter, you get another 250 square feet. So there's a, I mean, the
So you
formula
have
there.
a formula for after an acre.
Yes. So if you want to think about it, in the next meeting, come up with, because the formula is there, like I said, up to the first acre is 1,200 square feet. For every half acre thereafter, you do get an additional 250. Whether or not you would look at changing that formula for in anything beyond the first acre, whether you bump that to 500 square feet for increment of half an acre up to a half acre and so on, so that you actually get something after that first acre instead of waiting for an acre and a half.
So do you think that if we change the, you know, did your recommendation that at 1,500 square feet, that we would go to, 2,000 square feet, you know, an outbuilding of 2,000 or whatever that number is? Do you think that's gonna, how is that gonna affect your ability to control what's going on? Is that a concern?
Based on setbacks, height of structures, the code kind of protects neighborhoods that way. You only can go to 15 feet, but if you're meet the minimum, that's at the minimum requirement of setback for accessory structure. If you increase those increments, you can raise it by a foot. So there's other formulas in the code to protect that. I think adjusting the formula and keeping the other portions of the code intact might be, I mean, a working step in trying to accomplish, I think, what the board wants to look at. You still may get people in to ask for, you know, whether it's a height based on lot in town, they might be so close to a property line. I mean, you still could get those.
Well, we're still gonna, if we change it to the acre, we're gonna get the people in here with 0.97 of an acre. And, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what's right. I'm just saying, you know, we're gonna get this.
I still think we have to treat each one individually. I just don't see how we get away from it.
I think so too. That was our original.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. It just seems like every time we get one, we're going against the the code. And when we
Yeah, but
approve,
usually, I mean, there's room to put it, and,
yeah,
And I think what's happening too is like this last circumstance here, they acquired or it was part of that lot. On a single lot, I think itself, if somebody came in and asked for that, just on that, I think the board may look at that different. But by adding on that extra lot, I mean, it gives you that opportunity to make a decision in favor of the owner. I think it's a individual, single lot, it would be a lot more difficult.
Well, like in the last case, it's really not any different if the people that were in here owned the one lot and did a 1,200 on theirs, and the people that, somebody else owned the other lot and did a 1,200 on theirs.
Correct.
It's not any different, it's
I
just
mean,
written. I
it's
mean,
a good balance.
Semantics,
Yeah,
but.
yeah. I think
you wanna make a decision or think about it, and we can talk about it next meeting?
we can leave it as is too. I just
Okay.
thought it should be as, we should bring it up for discussion. That's kind of what I said last meeting, because it just seems like we're getting a lot of these, but, and just seems like we're going against the code and what the city had put together every time, because they do make sense, and the ones that we've had have all been in the ETZ, and I don't know if you have different formulas for ETZ or but we can't hardly do that, but,
We could leave it until
Yep.
somebody has a better, like an idea. Like,
yep, yeah, I think we leave it as is.
Okay, okay, very good. Okay, thank you. Is there anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Trevor, is there a second?
No second.
Second by Pat. We are adjourned. Thank you. Do we have a time? 8 o'clock, 8:15, or what?
Eight o'clock.
Set for approximately 8 o'clock, okay. Very good.